Welcome to the Y on Earth Community's Stewardship and Sustainability podcast series. Today, we have the opportunity to visit with Dr. Anita Sanchez. Hi, Anita.
Hi, glad to be here.
It's so great to be able to visit with you today, and I'm so thrilled that we're doing this in your home.
Yes.
And we have a very special person, entity, being with us here right
we can
behind
acknowledge
us.
the grandmother, the Janae grandmother, who's teaching all the babies the original knowledge, the oral history, and of course they all listen.
It's so beautiful, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Dr. Anita Sanchez is Azteca and Mexican American, and is a board member of both the Pachamama Alliance and Bioneers. Anita inspires people to discover and trust their gifts so that they become life-giving connections to people and to the earth. She has trained thousands of leaders in global corporations and nonprofits. Using indigenous wisdom and modern science, Anita guides leaders in creating caring and inclusive workplaces and communities. TEDx presenter of Humanity's Hope, Anita is also the author of 4 books, including the #1 international best-selling Success University for Women in Business, and The 4 Sacred Gifts, published by Simon & Schuster. She leads an annual journey into the Amazon rainforest for the Pachamama Alliance to support people to discover and deepen their purpose and the importance of sustaining our earth. Anita, I'm so excited we have the opportunity to speak with you today, especially given your incredible depth and connection in the indigenous wisdom and the way you're bridging that over into the work that you do in the corporate world. It's beautiful. It's what we need in these times. And I'm just curious, what got you started in that kind of integration work?
Yes. I didn't have the language for it, but I will say it dates way back to age 3 and 4, my earliest memories of a dream that I still have today. And in that dream, there's the earth, and there's all these stick people, different colors, and we have our hands on each other's hearts. And I remember in kindergarten where the teacher said, draw what you're going to be when you grow up, and people drew wonderful things, mommies, daddies. But I drew this picture of my dream, and I said, and I'm one of them, and they're all over the world. And so there, I already knew that part of what my purpose was, part of what I was going to be doing was connecting hearts. And so I've always loved learning, so I loved school. So of course I went on to get PhD, but I also knew that this dream just kept coming to me. And so what it turns out to be is I'm an organization development consultant. I focus in on human systems and positive change using positive psychology and things. But that's where all the learnings that I got growing up, and still to this day, by engaging with amazing wisdom keepers from different traditions, all indigenous, that I'm able to weave that together, because otherwise people really think we're gone. Too many people think, but that just belongs there. Now we've done that, let's get on with the business. So wait a minute, this wisdom is so needed now. We even have like the United Nations finally in their report saying we're essential. I want to use the language they said. Indigenous peoples are essential to reversing global warming.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so beautiful. It's so needed. It's so necessary. It's so logical.
Yes.
Right? And one of the things that increasingly strikes me in this work that we're doing, healing Earth, healing our relationships with Earth, with each other, is that when we apply logic, it actually requires us to open up our awareness, our thinking, to incorporate things like indigenous wisdom, which are often informed by thousands upon thousands of years of ecological knowledge, for example.
Exactly.
And my gosh, to help share that message in all kinds of contexts is so powerful.
It's very powerful. And as you say, indigenous people all over the world were the first scientists.
Yeah.
And when you look at science, of course I'm a social scientist, when you look at science, a lot of it is about testing, about observation, and we're some of the best observers to understand, especially coming from a mindset that we're not separate from, but we're part of. then we sit and observe and understand that what's happening there is happening here. And so now we have all the new sciences and stuff saying, the whole thing between observer and observed. And we're just sort of like, well, and what's the question? What's the problem?
We've known that
it's
all
one
along.
hoop of life, yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's really great to see the awakening happening that we have been in ceremony and dance and chant and prayer and out, because we're not just staying by ourselves, we're out in the various places, all the different sectors, you'll find Indigenous people. It's just that we're so small in number that people think we're not here, unless we actually name ourselves, unless we bring this beautiful art and the different ways of our knowing out in a very forward way, which in part of our learning is not to do that, but now we know the time is, Earth is telling us, all over the world I'm hearing from ceremonies, Earth is telling us it is time we all must bring our voices forward. We must be in positive action. So I so love what you're doing. Yeah, this is all needed now.
Truly, absolutely, Anita. I'm really eager to ask you about some of the ceremonial work that you do, and I want to wait just to make one more point on the science front.
Yes.
What strikes me sometimes is I'll be in conversations or even perhaps giving a talk somewhere, and somebody might respond saying, "Oh, I don't believe you. I don't agree with this because I have a science background." And I think to myself, well, now wait a minute, lovingly. Okay, maybe you took a biology class in high school 30 years ago. Maybe you've got an undergraduate degree in some science that you did 20, 30, 40 years ago. But the actual correct response could be, well, that's a wonderful foundation. Now, have you been paying attention to the latest discoveries? And just in the last 5-10 years, our observational instruments, our ability to see the microbiome, our ability to see all the way back to the birth of the universe is absolutely transforming our scientific understanding of reality. And it's coming back around to the indigenous worldview in many respects. And so it just seems in this culture in particular, we have this really big and important opportunity, those of us who were trained in that system, to keep on that journey and catch up to what's being discovered right now.
Yes. Well, that's part of the thing. And I love science. Science is part of the hoop of life, too. But some scientists are still stuck in, but science is only testing and looking at the physical world, observable. However, even scientists, they'll accept that, know that through quantum physics and the microbiology, oh my gosh, the thing they all can agree on, there's something more and we don't know. Yeah. So you're right. The right answer to that kind of stuff, and I hope I do that, is like, science never is about denying your experience. Instead, it's to ask the question, tell me more. Let's look at that further. And so that's what Indigenous people have kept alive, that knowledge. They didn't have the, MRIs, these different kinds of testing things, but they did know from observation, from being with, they understood. And so that knowledge, which is preserved so much of our land and our waters all over the world, and now we need to use that knowledge. And so I love seeing this coming together. Or, as some of my elders said, no, they're just catching up. And it's wonderful because it's not about, oh, I'm here first and you're here for. It's like, it's time. We're all interconnected. So let's get on with it, because life itself is telling us, we need to change some of the things we're doing, and some of regenerating the earth and paint to forest, protecting them and everything. So yeah, it's an exciting time. It's challenging. But boy, we get to really matter in what every thought we have, everything we say. And science is just reaffirming what we already knew.
Absolutely. I'm so struck, Anita, that I've been invited to a few Indigenous ceremonies over the years, and they have been among my most profound and impactful experiences. And I know that you do a lot of ceremonial work all over the planet with a lot of different traditional wisdom keepers. And I was hoping you might tell us a bit about that and talk to us a bit about what are the duration of some of these ceremonies that you engage in, and what is the unique form of wisdom that comes through there that maybe doesn't in a boardroom with spreadsheets, for example.
Well, there's ceremony is a certain particular kind of sacredness with a particular structure, and for millennium of language, dance, chanting, medicine, connecting with through plants and things. However, I have to start with first saying is that I am in connection with the sacred. All of us are at every moment. It's just whether we want to pay attention to it or not. That doesn't mean to say that everyone and everything is always operating in a sacred way, but at the essence is sacredness. So that's powerful. But ceremonies, I've been in so many. I'm so fortunate that both from being young and my grandmother with her Aztecan ceremonies that she would teach us, but as a young girl going to college here in Colorado, I began immediately hooking up with just so many different people, friends from various tribes, and they're so gracious and loving to bring you in, whether it's in sweats or which can last just a handful of hours, and prayer and fire, or what I just was in Kyrgyzstan with beautiful first time to be to Kyrgyzstan, and 7 days of ceremony. Pila Colorado led that group. She's a Oneida elder. And we had 12 indigenous women from all over the world, and then 12 local indigenous women. And they invited us to be with them as they showed us their ceremony and had us participate. And the focus of that whole week was about unity. And we know, that's what we're talking about. We're all interconnected, unity, but particularly because what's coming up is the women's voices. And for women's, so I just have to say, 2 eagles are flying by the windows right now. You might catch one of them. You see, there are several of them that have been flying. But anyway, yes, audience. It was a really beautiful blessing that we have them coming through. But so they were, particularly because in the different ceremonies in different parts of the world is coming through, it is time for women to help us lead from the heart. It's not to say men are left behind. Men have heart. Men have the feminine parts themselves, just like women have the masculine parts. But it's saying this must lead. And so in their ceremonies, it was beautiful. We use prayer bundles. They use wool because it's so plentiful in the foothills of the Himalayas where they graze and stuff. And so we had these thousands of prayers, and they showed us how they create their fire with this, dipping it in ghee and creating this pyramid, and we're all in song and dance, and it just evolved. There was some structure to it, but it was also evolving. And what is true is that you get to have inside of you resonate, because there's a knowing, as scientists know. We don't really understand how everything works, how light works, how does this turn into that? In that state, there is so openness of the heart to everything. So the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, it's all there along with the great mystery. And so what happens is like what just happened here. We'd be in ceremony and it would be cloudy, and somehow one ray of sun would come in right into the center of the ceremony. It'd be cloudy, and all of a sudden, not only is that one ray coming, but we'd look up, and not only eagles are circling, but other species of bird are circling. Or in another place where we were in ceremony and we were smoking the pipe, and those plentiful deer, but they'd come over and brush and touch and lean on us. It's just, I think what's happening is, as we understand, as you know, trees talk to trees, animals talk to, and we can really be in presence of each other. We are in communication if we just be still and listen with the softest part of our ears and the softest part of our hearts. And so there was this knowing that in the face of all the horror, the challenges that are happening, the destruction, in just about every sector, all of these other life beings are for life, and they're here for us. And you must know that with what the beautiful work you do with the earth. And oh my gosh, I was just so excited when you were telling me what you do, and I'm like, oh, yay.
I think part of the joy in the work we all can engage in regeneration and restorative practices, working with soil, working with plants and other species, is that it enhances our quality of life. It truly fills us with an energy that, we can understand how the microorganisms in soil can penetrate our skin, can influence our serotonin production and our neurobiochemistry. Yeah, the science is starting to really put that together. And the fundamental fact is it absolutely changes our experience of life.
It does.
And it's such a gift. We are so blessed to be on this miraculous planet. And I love describing it sometimes as a spaceship that is so well engineered, we ordinarily don't even have to worry about the life support systems. And I know in many indigenous traditions, you know, deer has deer's role in the ecosystem, beaver has beaver's role, wolf has wolf's role, and the humans are this very peculiar species that really don't have a role in the ecosystem per se, but have a super special role of stewardship of that place. And that as we get away from that knowing, boy, destructive and dangerous things can happen.
Yeah.
However, as we open that listening part, that soft part of ear, that soft part of heart, and truly embrace that aspect of our role being here on this beautiful, miraculous planet, my goodness, we can transform almost instantaneously with that kind of knowledge.
Yes, absolutely right. And I would say we do have a role because of our millennia that we've been here, and when we've been staying in connection. I think about the terrible fires that had happened in California. Not that long ago, and I happened to be there after the really bad one in Napa Valley, Sonoma, and that whole area there. And I was with some of the tribe, some of the leaders from the tribe there, and they showed us that for several decades they were going to the city councils saying, please, we need to do this burn, this dog patch. That's the positive relationship. There's a certain kind of controlled burn so that the animals have more, so that it's all in balance. It doesn't mean not touching it.
Right.
In some situations, it means actually engaging because we're part of that hoop. And so lo and behold, they showed us the latest, which was a couple of months before the big fires where, hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. But they were too afraid to listen to this knowledge of like when you do it, how you do it. That's just it. It's just not flippant. It's really from a long, long study and knowledge to be able to do this. So exciting now to see when scientists and indigenous people are coming together, business people, philanthropists, all the different sectors, education, because there's not any one area where we can't make a difference. So that leads me to something I have to say, because women's voices. So I love that in reversing global warming, clearly the work you're doing is so critical. But number, I think, is 6 or 7, is education of girls. And so we know that all over the world, if we do that, then the girls make better decisions not only about family planning, but they always give back, and it's connected to the people, to the earth, to doing small gardens, all these kinds of things that are like, oh well, that's girl stuff. No, this is human stuff. This is hoop of life stuff. This is what's being called forward. So it's exciting, and it does change. One of the ways also that I think it changed things for people, that I have to tell people, no, I'm not drinking anything, I'm not on anything, because they're like, you're happy so much of the time. And I said, well, I have challenges, I'm a human being. However, I never, ever, and I don't use that word very often, never, ever feel alone. I get lonely, that's a human condition. But I'm never alone because I know that I'm connected to all this. That sitting here with you, obviously I'm not alone, but the oxygen I'm breathing, thank you trees who've taken the carbon and given me this oxygen, this earth that this house, my home sits on, the beautiful rocks, I mean, just everything. So, oh my gosh, the universe really is working in our favor. So as you said before, like, you almost don't have to do anything. Well, we are in a place now because we've done so many things not well. We have to be in positive action, but we have everything conspiring in our favor.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it, Anita. You mentioned earlier about the unity. And I know that in the Four Sacred Gifts, the book you wrote, that's one of the four sacred gifts. And I was hoping you could tell us a bit about each of the four, what they are and how they apply in these times in particular.
Oh, they're so relevant. A Mohican elder, Don Coyes, White Bison, had a vision back in the early 90s. In that vision was the call from life itself. Spirit was calling, and to bring together elders and to build this hoop of 100 eagle feathers. And that in this ceremony, they were to put the gifts in the hoop from elders from all over the world, from different traditions, to help us remember. Because human beings have forgotten. They've forgotten that they're part of the hoop of life, not separate. They'd forgotten that in order to have harmony and balance, they needed to remember how to be in connection with themselves, their head and hearts, their bodies, their minds, and with other people, and all nature and earth, all of it. So they put these 4 gifts in there, and there's no secret. So it's a beautiful book because it has all these indigenous wisdom elders speaking in stories related to now. The 4 gifts to help each of us remember how to be in right relationship with ourselves and each other are, first, the gift of the power to forgive the unforgivable. Mm-hmm. And we can all imagine, we all have things that we may say, oh, that's just not forgivable. However, that's an energy drain. And to really free up your love of self as well as love of others, forgiving the unforgivable. And it doesn't mean we forget and that we don't seek new systems and structures so those injustices don't happen, but also means we're free to be able to use our energy what we want to create. So the power to forgive the unforgivable. The second one is the power of unity, and we can come back to that because I know this is what we really want to focus a lot on, is power of unity. Unity will take all of us, and now I'm talking not just two-legged, it's all of us to create a thriving world. And then the third gift is the gift of healing. And healing for indigenous people isn't like go to the pharmacy and take something. I'm not saying don't do that. It's great. That sacred thing that we've created, some of these medicines and stuff. However, healing is more of a process rather than an event, and it's something all of us have, and it's healing all the time. And we can help each other heal. We can help heal ourselves, starting from the inside out, and that is an ongoing gift. Not, oh gosh, I have to heal. And it was, yay, I get to heal again and again and again, from the small wounds and the big wounds. And then the fourth gift I just adore is the power of hope in action, which is needed this time. We need hope because some of these things we look at, they look so desperate. Like, how are we going to deal with this? I think of the fires in Brazil, like, oh my gosh, this is a horror. It is. And it absolutely, we go to the depths of it. There's anger and fear and go further. And it's love that's calling forward. And so that we can see things that maybe we can't see through our senses right now, but we know are possible, that we can do these innovative things, that we can come together. I think of Notre Dame burning down and billions of dollars coming. Well, we have a situation where I think billions of dollars would come, but we also have a national, there's the human beings who are saying, no, we don't want your help. However, that's not to say, oh, well, we can't do anything. No, this is the opportunity for us, and the forest is asking us, and the indigenous people there and all the other people, like, it's time to be in action. And so there's organizations you can help, like Amazon Watch or Pachamama Alliance, or many of the tribes directly receiving funds. It's so necessary because these are the lungs of our earth. So those 4 gifts, the power to forgive the unforgivable, the power of unity, the power of healing, and the power of hope in action. Use these 4 gifts, and Spirit said, you will then remember. And I have been using those gifts since 1995. I've incorporated them into my teaching of leaders at all different levels in corporations. And no matter where I am, people, when I share the whole story of how they came to be and a lot more detail, people, slow down. We want to write down the 4 gifts. Doesn't matter what language, because we all know these are already exist inside ourselves. It's about using them. And when you do, then you're able to be present to what is, and then collectively we're able also to then to co-create, use our energy to do that rather than more suffering. That's what life's calling for, so that our children have a great place. I know you have a son and I have 2 sons, but it's our children, it's our children's children, it's other species' children. You know, we get to really make a difference.
Absolutely beautiful. I have a daughter also.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, well, her too. Don't leave her out.
She's an incredible healer, actually.
Oh, good. Yes. That needs to, thank you. I can tell from your smile. You support that. all of that. That my grandmother, because came from Mexico, she's Aztecan. Neighbors built higher walls in the backyards because they were like, who is this woman doing this stuff outside and taking children out there? So she taught us how to connect in part to the earth and the plants. We'd come at dark in the morning, she'd take us outside and we'd stand by our garden with the sunflowers. And the light would come up and we'd turn to where the sunflowers looking. We'd go play every hour for a whole day, from sunrise to sunset. We'd go back to that spot, 5 minutes in silence. And whoa, the lesson learned with our bare feet on the ground and being with that flower. It's powerful. That has served me as a social scientist in so many ways. And in talking now to other kinds of scientists, biologists, they go like, yeah, right. We're talking about life seeks life. That's what needs to guide us. So following the light.
It's so beautiful, and the sunflower is such an amazing phenomenon and metaphor. And I imagine most of our audience knows this, but perhaps if you don't, that the sunflower literally tracks and faces the sun throughout the day. And I recently stumbled across a little study that showed that people are observing that when really dark clouds show up, instead of facing sunflowers will face each other.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, what an amazing
It's totally.
symbol.
And I think about my grandmother who had my grandmother Medina had no formal education, was one of the wisest women. And that's what I'm seeing all over. There are indigenous wisdom keepers who are PhDs in law and all sorts of science, but there are also ones who've not had hardly any education. And I'll tell you, I don't want to move out of their presence when they begin to speak and share, or just following them in silence. It's like, oh my gosh. And that's the reality, is we don't judge each other. Is that knowing that just watching those eagles fly, something was being transmitted, right? Yeah. And that there's beauty and there's value in beauty, but it's also something that part of that's giving us life. So it's all of it matters. It's really just, I'm very excited about. I'm about to travel again, so I'll be going to some more indigenous gatherings, and some of them are only indigenous people, but also so many of them are like what we're having here. It's from all four directions. So we have from the red direction, from the yellow direction, black direction, white direction, human beings from all these different, knowing that they're being called. Philanthropists, business people, scientists, wisdom keepers, young people. Oh my gosh, the young people who are teaching us so much. They know in such a profound way, let's get going, and inviting us to be part of making this shift, that's so needed. Yes. To me, it's like every day I wake up and I'm just like so grateful to be alive and in this beautiful place that I get to caretake. It's hard to say I own it, because it's not. I'm just caretaking it, and it brings such gifts and a place to rest in between, then going back out and doing the work. It's just so
sanctuary
blessed.
here.
It is a sanctuary. It's very much.
I really feel it being here with you, and I'm grateful, and I sense so much of that gratitude through everything you're describing. Must be part of that wellspring of that joy that you experience on the regular basis.
It is. And again, some people are like, oh, you're just being Pollyannish. No, there's suffering. I have an uncle who's 97, and I know he's being hospice right now. So, I have to figure out a way to do my client work and then get to him. And he's lived a beautiful life. Yeah. And he would say it's all happening just right with all his children around him. And it's all perfect. And we know as indigenous people, everything is changing, just like the season, just like the seed becomes the flower and then goes back to seed, or all the different things, the microorganisms that work, the insect, all of it. It's all here meant in this beautiful dance, this amazing, intimate interconnection that I have a hard time, nor do I want to, staying down. I allow myself, because it's not good to hide. So if you're feeling bummed out, depressed, or overwhelmed, look at that. Find out where it's in your body. Take a look at that, and then allow it. Move through it. And that's what I found is like, go deeper, go deeper. That's what my elders have taught me. And there's something that happens when you do it in connection with others, in that circle. Then the healing happens. And with that, on that Mother Earth and with all these beings with us, it's just, it just gives you all this energy. And that's what we are ultimately, right? Science knows that. We're energy. So it's how do we choose to use our energy?
Yeah, part of what I sense in this, yes, there's so much emphasis on the relationships.
It is.
And the awareness of the relationships. And I think for some of us, there's also an invitation to deepen into our courage. Sometimes I think some of this requires some courage. And I know, Anita, that you're probably so steeped on this path that you've exercised courage for a long, long time, almost like it must be second nature now. And I invite a lot of our audience who are maybe, dipping the toe in the water or thinking about just kind of opening up awareness and heart space, thinking about doing more ceremonial and healing work alone and in relationship with others, to acknowledge the courage that's required and to celebrate that. This is not necessarily easy work all the time.
No, it's not. But again, that gift of healing is there. And you're right. So sometimes people say, oh, well, look, you look beautiful. But my story doesn't start there. I have always had this incredible indigenous elders around me. But I also had a big secret for a lot of years where for age 4 to 13, I was a victim of rape repeatedly, incest. And then at age 13, my father is murdered. It's race related. They thought he was, they didn't know he was Mexican, Native American. They thought he was black. And it was during those horrible 60s, and it still happens where black people are being killed. And he lost his life. So many pains. It hurts to be healed. But what I found is that getting caught in all that, getting stuck in it, actually began taking away my humanity. And began causing more suffering, to where I'd put up a shield, and we would never have had this conversation. I'd be, oh, white guy, you're over there, no. And instead, I realized as I started lowering my shield, because I started appreciating more and more of nature, and appreciating more and more human beings who saw things in me, that I began to lower that, and I realized that armor that I thought was protecting me was killing me, was suffocating me. That, I'm going to get hurt. Yeah, I'm going to not make it. But I don't think of them as failures. Okay, I'm like 40 times closer. I know what doesn't work on that. All right, thank you. And so it's just, again, it's this mind is like shifting it, because we get to decide, we get to choose. And that's what my elders always said, be careful. I remember my grandmother, and I remember in the Osage where my her cousin lived, and we used to go there, and the elder would always say, as we were kids sitting on the place, be careful of what you say. Be careful even what you think. Because once you put that out, you can't take it back. And it'll be like, oh my goodness. He said, now you can put something different out then. You can put out a new thought. We're affecting each other in a 12, 14-foot radius at minimum. Our heart rate variability. We know that words, we can do muscle testing and see that we can actually cause people to become weak by sending these horrible messages to each other. But we also, when we're grounded, when we're connected with the water, with the earth, people can send all sorts of things, and your body doesn't weaken. All sorts of things. We have much more control over what we thought were involuntary systems of ours, our digestion, everything. We're so lucky that we get to know this, but the elders were teaching this all along, and I'm just so grateful that you taught me this, and now I get to see the science in it too. But you were the first scientist, so why wouldn't you have told me this?
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. It gives me the shivers. I love it. Anita, thank you for sharing such a personal part of your story and journey also. I know that that's very powerful medicine, and I want to just honor and acknowledge that.
Thank you for doing that, because sometimes people, it can be overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, incest, she's Mexican, she must have had a hard time getting her business going, her father's murdered, oh my gosh, poverty, and now, why I share that is because I want people to know you are not your circumstances. We are these sacred beings here for a purpose, honoring these vessels, honoring all the other vessels, all the other beings, and everything can shift and change. And you can expedite that, or you can slow it down.
Right.
And these 4 gifts, I go back to the 4 gifts because these wisdom keepers heard it, they knew. Thank you, Don Koyas, and all of them. Oh my gosh, that we use these 4 gifts and we can remember. And that's life-giving. That's why I say my purpose is, to help people discover and trust their gifts so they can be a life-giving connection to themselves and others. That's a love.
Absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's the good medicine.
Well, let me remind our audience that this is the Y on Earth Community's Stewardship and Sustainability podcast series. And today we are visiting with Dr. Anita Sanchez. And I want to mention a few websites because I'm sure folks are interested to get more information and to get copies of the book for the 4 Sacred Gifts. You can go to forsacredgifts.com. It's all spelled out. We'll put this in the show notes. Also, Pachamama Alliance is at pachamama.org. Bioneers is at bioneers.org. And you can connect with Anita a number of different ways. On LinkedIn, she's at Anita-Sanchez. Twitter is Dr. Anita Sanchez, all one word. Instagram, same thing as Twitter. And Anita-Sanchez.com. SanchezTennis.com, and on Facebook it's Anita Sanchez PhD. And I also want to take a moment to thank our many sponsors and supporters who make this work possible, and that includes several individuals and families who have joined our monthly giving program. Many, many thanks to all of you. And this is an opportunity for any of you to support on a monthly basis the podcast series as well as the community mobilization work that we're doing all over the country and throughout the world with our network of ambassadors. If you haven't joined yet and you would like to, you can go to yonearth.org/support. You can join at any level. When you join, I will send you an email with a special code that will allow you to unlock for free all of our ebook and audiobook resources. Unlimited quantities. You can share this with as many friends, family, coworkers, colleagues as you would like. And so we really appreciate your support and your engagement. I would also like to thank our sponsors, and this includes the Association of Waldorf Schools of North America, Earth Coast Productions, Equal Exchange, the International Society of Sustainability Professionals, the Lidge Family Foundation, Madeira Outdoor, Patagonia, Purium, and Waylay Waters. A big thanks to all of you for your support, and for our audience, if you want, you can go check out some special discount codes using the code Y on Earth at many of those sponsors' sites. So just keep that in mind. And I'm so thrilled and excited, Anita, that we have this opportunity to visit with you today. And I was hoping we could spend a little more time talking about this grandmother statue behind us and what it symbolizes. And I'm hoping those of you who are tuned into the video that you can see this. Behind us is this beautiful, beautiful sculpture.
Yes, yes. So being half Indigenous, and I've had the opportunity to work with Indigenous people all over, oftentimes they end up, selling their beautiful art. But the meaning of this is, so for many Indigenous people, of course, how they teach is just like my grandmother taught us. It's not with PowerPoint slides or in fancy buildings. It is through the oral history, sharing the stories of the people. And so you see her mouth open and she's singing or talking and sharing the stories, and there's 140 babies on her here. And they're all listening, taking that in. It's powerful. And on the other side of me I'm blocking right now is a male, and he's also doing the same thing. So its storytellers are female and male, and animals. I have some storytellers that are turtles sharing the wisdom. But this is what is happening, is that we are all sharing what we know to be true. And for Indigenous people, it is so essential now, more than ever, for us to share with each other. And so that's what you're allowing to have happen with all the work that you're doing and all those amazing sponsors. Just I send them blessings, because every you don't know who you're touching, who's then comes alive what their contribution is in the world. But for now, everyone needs to step forward with whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so this storyteller showing us whether in good times, the stories of abundance and plentiful, or really challenging times, is that we endure, we persist. There is a saying that I think it's a Mexican indigenous person, but it's anonymous, I don't have it. It basically said that they tried to bury us, but they forgot we were seeds. And see, so we're still here because basically indigenous people have faced genocide pretty much all over the world, but we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're still out and active, and we're still protecting the water and the earth and the trees for all of us. It's not just for our own people and nations, it's for all of us. And so we love when we have all these alliances spurring up everywhere, and these wonderful sponsors who are helping support your work to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's what's using whatever is your call to do, to be. That's what this storyteller would love, that, because that's the story she's sharing with all the babies.
Oh, so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Well, speaking of alliances, I was hoping, could you tell our audience just briefly what is Pachamama Alliance, what is it doing, and also the same for Bioneers?
Yes, two powerful organizations, both 25, 30 years old. Pachamama Alliance, whole purpose and mission is to bring forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, and socially just human presence on this earth. And one of the major focuses, including incredible educational programs that are free. You can go on the site, so we gave you the Pachamama.org. You can see what's there and take some of those classes in that. But it's also, our purpose is to preserve the Amazon rainforest. We're particularly focused on the sacred headwaters and work with the Ashwar, the Sapra, the 18 tribes there who are the leaders, who are the natural custodians. And so for 20 some years, we've been in alliance with them, helping to teach people about why this is so important, the lungs of our earth. And now people are listening even more with, of course, the horror of the fires that are happening in Brazil of Amazon. So all across the Amazons, the people are coming together, and all of the world, I see it rising up and saying, no, this cannot be. This is our future. So that's Pachamama Alliance work, and I'm on the board.
I imagine some of our audience has not heard the word Pachamama.
Yes, so Pachamama is a beautiful word. Thank you. Yeah. It's a Quechua word, an indigenous word from a nation up in the Andes. And most people see it in markets, so they think it means Mother Earth. And that's powerful. But actually, the Quechua word Pachamama means the sacred presence of the earth, the sky, the universe, and all time. So to call oneself Pachamama Alliance, we take really seriously. So we're in collaboration with a lot of people we are really listening to and aligning with the indigenous people who have that first upfront knowledge and wisdom, and we'll have great supporters, and we need more, and we need it so much to make permanently preserve the sacred headwaters. So that's the work of Pachamama Alliance. It's just, I love it. And every summer I lead a group into the Amazon, to the sacred headwaters. Next one will be in June of 2020 that I'll lead. But Pachamama leads a number of these journeys so you can go in and really get connected to understand. I think that more people will be wanting to have that experience. The Bioneers organization is another amazing organization. It's 30 years old, or 31, and I'm on that board. And they have been in the forefront in all the different sectors, bringing forward solutions, educating, cross-pollinating, and they have a real focus on indigenous people, on women, science. I mean, their focus is huge, but they really so lovingly put their arms around all of it and bring forward in an annual conference every October in San Rafael.
That's California.
California. Yeah, bring together for 3 days, and you just absorb and learn so much and make connections, and so much comes out. And then they, through radio, we put out a lot of information in communities all over the world. Right. We have one locally here in Boulder, Colorado, too. Just continue the learning and continue to inspire the connection and understand what is each of ours to do and collectively to do to, again, reverse global warming, to really be in co-creation with life rather than in competition or destructing. So that's a wonderful organization. Go to bioneers.org and you can learn all about the October next month, our conference. It's really great.
That's so beautiful. Well, Anita, I want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us today, and I'm really grateful we had the opportunity to share this conversation with our network and audience. And before we sign off, I'm wondering, is there anything else you'd like to say or share?
I think pause. It's so busy. If maybe even before you go to sleep at night, just give a little pause and ask for grace. Ask to bring whatever message needs to come. Because in the stillness, in the quiet, I believe that's where I'm not talking about it has to be hours or a 50-minute meditation. Just being still and just present to being present in waking time or sleeping time, you're bringing forward your gifts. So I'd like to share that you are needed and appreciated. Yes. And hopefully one day, many of them, although you have thousands of millions of people, so I won't meet them all, but I just wish everyone well, because I know with interconnected hoop of life, we are supporting on each other's behalf. So, yeah, that's Absolutely. It for me.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank you.
The Y on Earth Community Stewardship and Sustainability podcast series is hosted by Aaron William Perry, author, thought leader, and executive consultant. The podcast and video recordings are made possible by the generous support of people like you. To sign up as a daily, weekly, or monthly supporter, please visit yonearth.org/support. Support packages start at just $1 per month. The podcast series is also sponsored by several corporate and organization sponsors. You can get discounts on their products and services using the code YONEARTH, all one word with a Y. These sponsors are listed on the yonearth.org/support page. If you found this particular podcast episode especially insightful, informative, or inspiring, please pass it on and share it with a friend whom you think will also enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. And thank you for being a part of the Y on Earth community.